Okay, well, it's 1 o'clock. It looks like there's a few people still connecting, but let's go ahead and start. We're going to try to make it fairly short. We can follow up with everybody, after the webinar on an individual phone call. But let's go ahead and get started. So I guess, first, again, thank you to everybody for coming. We're super excited about it. Frank and I and the team have been working 8 years, ultimately on getting something like this going. And, we've had bits and pieces, but this is a really cool culmination of a long time, like a lot of work. So we're really excited about it. Well, firstly, I'd like, you can use the GoToWebinar control panel again to ask your questions. We will follow up with this email with a couple things. The slide presentation, we will be recording this, and we are recording this. And we have some PDFs that we can share with you as well as just answering questions, like I mentioned. So let's get started. So 2022, Stuckey & Company is celebrating 31 years as an MGA and national wholesale broker, offering our agents access to all the A-rated carriers that you guys know us for. Hartford and Travelers, Safeco, Met, Nationwide, Allstate, all those standard and preferred carriers. We normally, and under this program, we will as well work on what we call a 151 promise, which is a in by 1, out by 5, in by 5, out by 1 the next day on most all service requests, as well as quote requests. So, we provide excellent service to you, and I feel that you need that to compete. So these are the things that we do, and on this program, honestly, we're doing every one of them. So we do everything from creating the program to underwriting it. We rate, quote, bind in-house. I think on this program, we'll show you how we're going to also expose that rating tool to you. We bind, issue the policy, endorse, renew, invoice, report. We report to both the carrier and you guys, the agent. We integrate with carriers' sites using their APIs as well as your systems. And we handle the claims, we market, and train. So we literally do all of those things with this program specifically. We can go over these things, but we'll kind of skip over some of it and get to the meat of the matter. But the two things I think that we do extremely well, maybe three. First, we give you a single point of contact. So you will have somebody that kind of guides you through whether it's personal lines or commercial lines or this educational product. And if you have any questions on whether it's GL or property, educators, legal liability, EPLI, D&O, or whatever it is, you can have one person, and you won't get lost in the clutter in the process. And another thing that we can do on other programs, if you need it, is we give you direct carrier access. So if it's a standard personal lines, auto, or home risk, we try to step out of the way if we can, and just give you direct access to those carriers. I think that's very unique in the industry. And we're a specialty MGA. There's not many people doing the programs. We're a specialty MGA for technology professional, miscellaneous professional, architects and engineers, and then this educational program for one-to-one devices. These are the other programs. I mentioned the Safety Tech program, a technology E&O product that we underwrite here. It's been up for probably 20 years, 20 plus years. Aspire A&E is our architects and engineer product. We have an insurance program for marinas and boat dealerships. Miscellaneous professional, we have a program for the green energy industry. Again, personal lines, commercial lines, and surplus lines. So now, you might have heard Frank, but I'd like to thank Frank. We've been friends for a long time, 10 plus years. We actually share a birthday, so we're birthday buddies, brothers. And he's the president of Insure Protect, our TPA. And also Tyler Bechtold, he's the business development rep for Stuckey & Company. And just like to thank you guys for coming and presenting. So with that, Frank, I'll turn it over to you to kind of introduce the opportunity and what we'll talk about going forward.
You bet. Thank you, Dwight, and hello to everybody. Good morning, still out here in California and Santa Cruz. So we're going to talk about covering digital devices beginning here in 2022. We're looking for a May 1 approximate launch date, and we wanted to make sure we got this out to you and really gave you a feeling of security and a feeling that it's been well thought through. So, we're going to talk about the opportunity size. What does it really mean? How is this market segmented? We're going to discuss briefly what the programs are we're talking about and how these products work and the coverage flexibility works. They're amazingly flexible. We'll touch base in the underwriting guidelines and how you do a quote. And, we're going to give you a little view into that. And then certainly we want to talk about life cycle management, right? Because if you think about the digital devices in school and the education market, the kids get their digital devices at some point and either keep them yearly or they might get them when they're a freshman and keep them, till their senior year. There's a life cycle to each of these products. There's an end of usefulness time. All the schools, all the districts, all the dioceses, everybody else knows when they need to bring in new products. This is part of their whole management process, so we'll talk about that. And then, of course, we're going to touch base on what's in it for you. Can you make some money doing this too? So that's where we're going to go on. And Dwight, if you want to go to the next slide, that would be great. And so this is kind of a fun little view of how the life cycle of a digital device works. So, I would imagine some of you have kids that are on the phone. You've known what COVID's done the last couple of years, how they went from going to school every day to now they're staying at home and studying. And it took the reality of the need for every student to have a digital device right in our face, right? There was no hiding behind it. Lots of times they use digital devices at school for some stuff, but they didn't necessarily use it for other things. Lots of times they might send them home with them, but it wasn't necessarily the reality. Now the reality is every student has learned to learn on a digital device, and so they need that. And every teacher, every school has learned to teach with that, so they need that. They need it all to be working correctly, and if it's not working correctly, digital education has real value, or real challenges for sure. So just think about it. They acquire the device, then they got to take the time and money to configure it. They need to then distribute these devices to the teachers and the students. How do they use them, right? How do they use the software? They may need some occasional updates, and little patches to make sure all the software they've uploaded works. But then what happens when the device fails? What happens if it's lost? What happens if it has a virus? Who do they call, right? What happens if they think the network is moving slow? Do they even know who is supplying them with their network coverage? What happens when the student actually drops the device and breaks it, or curriculum changes or things that are needed and they don't know how to do it? And then ultimately what happens when the device reaches the end of life? So So this program gets in here and it thinks about the technology through the entire life cycle, right? We can help with technical assistance. We can help get an item repaired or replaced, regardless of the the value of it or the type of design it is or the brand, so on and so forth. So when you put all that together and then you bring it all the way to the end of the life, what do the schools do with 500 devices or 5,000 devices at the end of that time? How do they get value for that? And we have a way to help them recover those assets as well. So, Dwight, if you want to go to the next slide. There we go. So this is just to kind of explain to you how big is this market. Some of you may not really realize how big it is, but the thought of this and the reason we're presenting it to you as agents is think about it. You know, every year you're going in to do renewals with your schools, the decision makers, or the districts or the counties or whoever you deal with. You're going through and you're renewing your slip and fall insurance or your fire insurance or whatever that school or district needs. And so what we would think is it would be a natural progression to say, what do you do with all the digital devices? How many digital devices do you have? How many students do you have? You start a conversation. So to give you an idea about how big that market is, there's 61 million kids, right, in just K-12 in the United States. That's approximately 120,000 schools with an average student population of about 550 students. That's a lot of digital devices out there, okay? So you think about it also, even after they leave high school, now we got college or we got different types of tech, you know, and different places they can go beyond. That's another 24 million students. But they use on average 3 devices per student instead of 1 device. So the total market's pretty big. It's 72 million devices for post-12, and it's another 61 million K-12. That's a big number. That's 130 million devices that need support. And that doesn't even count the teachers. There's another 3 to 4 million teachers and administrators. So it's a big market. So when you're out renewing all of that insurance that you do on a regular basis, now you can start to think about the conversation. You know, what do you do? How do you support the digital devices? How do you take care of them? What happens when they break? Et cetera, right? Because it's easy to buy product. It doesn't mean necessarily that it's easy to deal with issues when they fail. Not all the schools have the budget, the time, or the people to support this stuff. So using somebody like this program will help them solve that. As far as the program's super flexible. You can buy it in parts. You know, the schools can buy it in parts. They can get mechanical and electrical failure. It's kind of like a service contract, right? Something goes wrong with it, call a number, it'll get repaired for them. Accidental damage. They drop something, it's irreparable, it'll be replaced. What happens if the device goes missing? Nowadays, it's much less of a problem than it used to be because all the devices have Find My You-Know-What and this and that. The old days, we used to have to load a lot of that software in, but it's still something some of the schools want to buy on a device level instead of buying it as an overall package level. What happens when they need technical assistance? I want you to know that anytime your customers get coverage for mechanical and electrical failure, accidental damage will be included, as will technical assistance, okay? That's no extra charge built into that because we know how important it is that they have that type of support. And then, of course, device end of life, and we'll talk about how we'll help them recover money. It's available on all the different types of devices they use, realistically, regardless of the brand or price. So, you know, you think about it, you've seen what your kids come home with, the Chromebooks, the iPads, you know, laptops. Sometimes you have to buy them for your kids. Sometimes the schools distribute them. There's the desktops, the peripherals. You know, Dwight asked me recently about, you know, what about those whiteboards, you know, that automatically translate for the teachers? All that stuff can be covered. The choices are 1, 2, or 4 year on the terms. Just kind of match the institution's approach because you don't know how they manage that. And, you know, they can buy these plans with no deductible. They can buy them with like $50 per or $75 per. A lot of the schools really like the fact that they can cover deductible on a per item device instead of having a big $10,000 deductible, for any type of occurrence, because this enables them to get a group price, enables them still to get things managed on a per device level. So if you want to go to the next one, Dwight. Ratings and credits. We come up with the pricing based upon conversations you will have with your decision makers. You'll talk about, do they have mobile device management? Do they have unique theft deterrence? Are they issuing these devices with cases or screen protectors? Do they pass the responsibility on to the parents? In other words, if they're checking out a device to a kid, the parent has to, sign a little note that they're going to be responsible for the premium or the deductible. Either one works. Et cetera, et cetera. So as you go through and you ask these questions, we'll go on to the next page. What you'll find out is that we'll be able to zero in right on the quote, right? We're gonna ultimately ask you, once we get to the quote, we need a list of covered devices. What's the quantity of them and the value? What's the age, make, model, and memory? And certainly, what's the serial number, IMEI number? I met yesterday with the former superintendent of Santa Rosa schools out here, and she's a PhD. She's been in the business 35 years. She's been the president of multiple JPAs. She gets how insurance works, how quote works. We were speaking about this, and she just thinks it's amazing that the schools can get group rates and still really distribute these products to their students. And she loves the fact that we're taking the flexibility on this. I also asked her, I said, can you think of a single school, Sue, or a single district that does not keep a list in their system of what their covered devices are, their IMEI serial numbers? She goes, no way. She goes, they have to have that. It's a capital investment. They have all that type of stuff. So this is not really hard to get this stuff. It's just a matter of questioning. And as we go through, it's just a matter of getting your hands on it and pushing it over to us so we can populate the database with it. The only things we really want to think about is we really don't want to be buying pre-existing conditions. You guys know that drill. And then, we would like to know about, please validate if the units have a real case. Don't forget to ask those questions. These units have a case, and, who's going to be financially responsible ultimately for the deductible and stuff. So if you go to the next page, this is really, really cool. This is something that'll be available to you online. And if you look at it, first you're going to ask the type organization, but then the simple stuff. You're just going to enter in how many devices there are, what type of devices are, what's their value. Then the next page in risk management, you're going to simply ask questions like, do you have covers or cases or so on and so forth. You're going to click all this off, and then you're going to go through and ask about what type of coverage do you really want today. And as you click those off in the system, it's going to go out and it's going to go back and it's going to grab the tables, and it's going to come back and literally show you your quote in pretty much real time. Now, there's two ways we can do that. We can develop or show you your quote in real time, or we can take that, look at it, make sure your question and answers were correct, and then we can kick you back your quote on the spot so that you can give it to them. Like Dwight said, any of this stuff that comes in before 1 will be back and answered by 5. Any of it comes after 1 will be in the next day. So, we're very committed to responsiveness. We're very committed to the excellent and fair pricing based upon your Q&A that you have on it. And we definitely want to give you the support that you need to go ahead and give these schools and these districts and these counties and these JPAs and whoever they are, an alternative to what they're currently trying to do. So that's kind of what it is in a nutshell. As far as the last two things, life cycle management, you've heard me talk about this. end of life is a big deal, right? And when you're in talking to these schools, whether it's in May or whatever month you're speaking to them, the reality is they may already have an inventory of products that they need to get rid of. We can help you give them a quote on their current inventory, or as part of the quote for the service contract and the insurance that they're considering buying to cover their products, we can create a guaranteed buyback at a guaranteed future value. So you think about it, if you look at this example on here, you'll see Chromebooks, desktops, all that type of stuff. You'll see what the manufacturer suggested retail price was, and you'll see that third column that shows the device age at the policy end. It's pretty easy to put that in there, right? Because we're going to know what it is. And it's going to literally automatically create a buyback estimate so that that will become part of the quote that you give them, right? And so sometimes they'll be looking at the reality that they're going to get more for these products at the end of the term that they've had them than they ever expected. And another thing is it'll generally be more than what they're paying for the coverage of the plans that they're getting to cover those devices. Pretty neat. This is the same kind of thing. The 151 promise, if that quote is coming in after, before 1, we're going to get you the quote. By 5, if it's coming after 1, we're going to get it for you the next morning. So, it's pretty darn neat. This is a really great way to give the decision makers comfort level that we're removing one more hassle for them, that they don't have to figure out what to do at the end of life with their products. Dwight, I don't think you might want to go to the next page.
Yep, got it.
And it's always a question about, well, what's in it for us? So this is kind of an interesting sample agent earnings calculation here. We can send you, this in your own Excel so you can calculate it yourself. But let's just say an average school has 550 devices, right? That's pretty normal. The average value of the device is $400. That's somewhere in between, the Chromebooks and the iPads, that type of stuff. That's $220,000 that school, is investing in those products. Okay. The average device premium is about 15%, right, of that amount. That's about what that comes in at. So you're looking at a $33,000 premium. Okay. Your commission on that's about 10%. This is an average school. So if you look at a school that only has 50 devices, obviously that's less. If you're looking at a district that has 5,500 students, then obviously that's 10 times more. In other words, depending upon how many of these institutions you currently do business with, whether, like I said, whether they're a diocese or a private school or a community college or, a high school or this or that, it really is going to come down to what's the size of the opportunity and what's the size of their problem. Because for many of them, it's a big problem. What are they going to do to support these products, and what are they going to do with the products at the end of their life? You engaging with them and simply asking them what they do with their digital devices might open up the door so that you can go in, you can log on to Stuckey's website, you can tap into his quoting engine that we kind of gave you 3 screenshots of. Away you go, quote happens. If they want to go ahead and get it, certainly the invoice will go out, the binding will take place, the policy will be delivered, or the T's and C's, terms, conditions, whatever program they buy, and away you go. Once they're in the system, then it comes down to, they can log online to request service, or they can call an 800 number, and away they go. And I think that's what we have, Dwight, at least from me. I think the rest would be, you engaging back again as an MGA with your clients there.
Yeah, you bet. Well, thanks, Frank. I have some questions, and we have a couple questions that are being asked. I guess, the first is an agent is in Michigan. Is I guess specifically, is the program available in Michigan? And I also going forward, where is it available and where is it not?
The program is available in Michigan on both the service contract side and the insurance side. The service contract side is available in all 50 states. On the insurance side, it's currently available in 31 states, and it's, we'll have the other 19 states probably rolled up within a month.
Right, and so we'll stay in touch with you. It is available in Michigan right now, and we'll send one of the things that I'll attach to the follow-up material is a state availability. The other one is flexibility of coverage. It shows warranty type break fix, but also it has the loss and theft. And I guess the question is, can we purchase those separately or individually?
Yes, the mechanical and electrical break fix that we call it, along with accidental damage, can be covered by standard service contract program. And the loss and theft is obviously covered by inland marine, right? And yes, they can be purchased separately. And in my opinion, they should be purchased separately. I think the question and the questions that you would ask your institutions, or they would ask their institutions, would be that, right? What kind of, it's part of that quoting machine that you built, what kind of coverage do you need? Because some of them might already have loss and theft and may not want to double up on that, right? Some may not. So yeah, that's the question. If they just want to buy loss and theft, because they already have their own support in their school, because some of the schools have their own techs, both hardware and software, right? If they already have that handled, they just want to buy loss and theft, yes, they can certainly do that too.
Right on. And the pricing looks fairly decent. You know what I mean? It looks good. And so, is this group pricing? Is there a minimum and maximum number of devices? Can you kind of go over some of that type of stuff?
It is group pricing. Yeah, it is group. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to tell you, I'll start, and Frank really has the answer. We deployed a program probably 5 or 6 years ago, and it was very unflexible, and which is the reason I'm so excited about the things that we've created with this program. But ours was called Mobile Rhino, and for education, the price was $99 a year. There was no flexibility in term, there was no flexibility in price, and we could not apply any pricing factors. So, the only time it really made sense, we wrote quite a bit of written premium, but the only time it made sense is if the school had a expensive laptop, or if they had like a very expensive iPad. So those Chromebooks or whatever, that you can, or the laptops you can go out and buy for $200, $300, $400, it just didn't make any sense. $99 at a $99 deductible, it just didn't make any sense. But this is group pricing, and maybe I'll hand it over to you after saying that.
No, yeah, that's a really good point. So this program, your quotes will come back based upon the value of the items that the school is distributing their students or using, right? So, a $200 Chromebook is probably going to be more like a $30 quote, right? Because it tends to be about 15% in that range for that year, right? So a $400 value that I showed you in that quote is going to be like $60. And once again, the deductibles are variable too. So, when they get their price quote, they're going to also be seeing the quote with all 3 deductibles, right? I can get it with 0 deductible, 50 or 75. It's really about matching up with what they're needing. So it's the coverage, right? It's the length of coverage. It's the current situation schools use, debits and credits. Do you have cases, or the students using, are they staying in the class, so on and so forth. That affects the risk, right? All that kind of stuff. So that affects the pricing. But back to your point, it's meant to be group coverage. If we wanted to quote this on a one-off basis, then they're going to pay, at least 25% more, that type of thing. The school the school, get the number of devices. We don't have a minimum. There's going to be some Montessori schools that have 50 that they need. There might be some other schools that have 100. But the reality is we know the average school is 550. We know there's a lot of larger institutions and groups, that type of stuff. So, we're fine. If you got a school that's only got 10 students, a little private school, thought in a household, that type of thing, yeah, we'll take that business. But, you're probably not writing, big insurance renewals with those guys anyway. You probably don't have a personal relationship with them like you probably do with your bigger clients. And I think the idea is to take this to your clients you've known for a while that, are important to you, you're important to them, vice versa. So I don't know if that was what you were looking for, Doug.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's perfect, I think. How is it billed? And I'll take that. We can either do agency bill or direct bill. Agency bill, of course, is where we would bill your agency for the full amount less commissions. You would bill your the school, or we can bill the school direct. Either way, we give it's due like the 15th of the month following the transaction date. So it's very similar to billing for other commercial type business. And here's a question about, and we're 2 minutes over, this is the last question, but about recycling, and it specifically mentions R2 electronics recycling, and does it comply?
Yeah, our partner in that is not only R2, they've got like 5 different ISO ratings. Yeah, they're master recyclers. In fact, they're doing their audit this week. They have to do an annual audit, and that's what they're having fun with right now. Otherwise, they'd probably have joined this call. But yeah, they're completely R2.
Yeah, well, right on. Well, that's all the questions we have. We'll come through and give everybody a call. I'd love to hear from you. See if we can add anything to our next presentation, or see if we can quote an account for you. See if you have a school that you're currently working with on their commercial coverages, and see what we can do for them. But I'd like to thank everybody. Frank, thanks a lot for coming and presenting. I thought it was great.
Thank you. See you, everybody. Take care.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, guys.